the influx of big box formula retail all have had impacts on our neighborhoods. What is your position on the SFMTA's plans for parking meters, and what policies would you enact to restore our local business districts? Vilma?
The parking meters are really getting outrageous. I've had a business at the Fisherman's Wharf, and let me tell you, for 20 minutes, it's $4 to put money in the meter. 5 minutes work. And it's not an exaggeration. Only certain areas of Fisherman's Wharf, which is partly a part of District 2. And in the Fillmore District, the meters hasn't been all fully covered yet because there are still certain areas that you're allowed to park. But mostly they're taken by handicapped people, and they leave their cars all day long. So how are they supposed to make money? They don't have to pay. And ultimately, you know, it has to be resolved in certain parts of the city because the heavily traveled and heavily taken up areas, a lot of the stores are boarded up on Fillmore, especially, particularly in the Chestnut area and also the Union Street shopping areas. The meters that are being put up are just a little bit much for the merchants to deal with because they have no business to run anymore. And they just close shop because of nowhere to park. And the parking spaces that are available are so expensive that the amounts they charge is so exorbitant that nobody wants to shop in the city anymore. So the result is we have to be really very, very careful about how to set up these projects and to make it workable and feasible for everybody to be able to enjoy the long-time benefits of San Francisco shopping. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Sure. I think, personally, to me, the small business community in San Francisco is absolutely the heart and soul of our city. It employs most of us. 60% of San Franciscans are employed by small businesses. But most importantly, to me, small businesses represent the character of our neighborhoods, the character of Chestnut and Union and Fillmore and Sacramento, especially here in District 2. And I think we need to do everything we can to protect, support the merchants that exist in those districts. In terms of parking meters, I think the plans that have come into place, various reasons have been given, but I do believe that this is an effort by the MTA for additional revenue. I don't believe that parking meters extending on weekday nights will solve anything except for increased revenue. You know, those Sunday parking meters and congestion pricing, there are arguments behind those to talk about whether it will increase turnover during times when merchants really will want that increased turnover. I do ultimately think that those are bad ideas as well, and I do think we need to make sure to focus on the fact that we do not want to create a chilling effect in San Francisco where people do not want to come into our merchant corridors and shop anymore. I think we have a large, dangerous potential to do that. And in terms of our small business community and our districts, again, my day job as an investor in the venture capital world is to invest in these small businesses. And I will tell you, the thing that scares me the most is that a lot of people who open small businesses for a living don't want to do so in San Francisco right now. And for two reasons. One, the red tape. We have to cut that out. Tons of merchants, tons of restaurants up and down Chestnut and Union and Fillmore that open up. The red tape that they have to go through is incredible, and we need to make sure to cut that down. We want to encourage small businesses. And lastly, providing tax incentive for small businesses in our corridors. You guys, it's not only about bringing new businesses in, but it's protecting the small businesses that exist today. A lot of the people up and down our merchant corridors in District 2 are existing not because they're thriving, they're dipping into their own 401ks to pay the rent. We need to do all we can through tax incentives to make sure that those existing businesses are stabilized and we promote new businesses coming into our merchant corridors.
Thank you, Mark. Kat?
I wrote a column about this in the Marina Times. I went down to the MTA and I talked with Jane Primus, who is the project manager for SF Park, And this is a federally backed program where they got money, I think it was about $24 million, and they went around and they counted all the parking spaces, and they embedded these bot dot things into the ground next to parking meters, and they identified 7 pilot areas, which included Union Street and Chestnut Street, and they're going to put smart meters in where you see all of those bot dots embedded in the ground. Now, smart meters, I'm okay with that idea because it allows you to pay for parking with money or your smart card or credit cards. And they're also talking about allowing you to park for more than 30 minutes or an hour or 4 hours so you can enjoy meals and enjoy movies. That part I think is good for business. The part that kind of sticks a little, but you can be a bit pragmatic about it, is that they're going to introduce variable pricing after they study the comings and goings with these bot dots, which are magnetometers, which send movements of cars back, and they study it. But they're going to have variable pricing. So say from 8 to 10, you might pay $2.50 an hour. From noon to 2, you're going to pay $4.50 an hour, and then it'll go back down. I can be pragmatic about that. I think that that's kind of a win-win for us, although I don't really like it that they're continuing to soak revenue out of us. But we do have parking problems in San Francisco, and that's one way to address it. What I was strongly against, because I supported the neighbors and the merchants, was extending metering hours to 10 p.m. and requiring Sunday fares. That's bad for business. It drives people away. Getting a $55 to $68 parking ticket for violating your meter by a minute is just too much. The city has got to stop that. And not only does it drive business away, but for the people who do come, they'll try very hard not to park in a metered spot, and it'll drive them into the adjacent areas. Like I live 1 block off Chestnut Street, and I have people parking in my driveway, and that has to stop.
Thank you. Janet, please.
Thanks. Well, the number one issue that I hear from the merchants is about parking. The number one gripe. So I am on record, and I believe that we should not extend our metered hours into the evening, nor should we have metered hours on Sunday. The SF Park pilot program, which is happening in, I want to say, 6 neighborhoods throughout the city, has some positive aspects to it. Of course, I love the idea that you can pay with your credit card or your debit card for convenience. Eventually, we will be able to pay with our cell phones, which will be terrific. So you don't have to carry around all of these quarters with you or go and reload your MTA card. So those are positive. I'm not opposed to the variable pricing, except it depends on what that variable pricing will be with the smart meters of the SF Park program. They're talking about maybe $12, $14 an hour. That is going to be exorbitant. So that we could not support. But based upon supply and demand, if there is some variable that we think that is acceptable, then I think that we could probably live with that, but not those kinds of high prices for parking. The commercial corridors in District 2 are fantastic. Union Street and Chestnut Street in particular, and I do think that we have to do everything in our power as a member of the Board of Supervisors to support our small businesses. 85% of the businesses in San Francisco have 20 or fewer employees. I don't think that we have to really reinvent the wheel on what we're going to do to help small businesses. As a supervisor, I will concentrate on the basics. Is the garbage being picked up? Are the streets clean? Is the parking working? Are we getting what we should get other commercial corridors in San Francisco? Pilot programs like arts in the storefronts or parklets. I will fight for those to come District 2 as well. And we'll have to decide if these are things that we want. But to know what's out there for our small business corridors is absolutely important, and to bring those decisions to you. I also believe in targeted tax breaks for our small businesses, but what I hear most of all small businesses want is access to capital. They cannot get funds from a regular lender. And so we have a program in San Francisco called the Revolving Loan Fund, which makes loans to small businesses. It is not general fund money, it is HUD money. And I would propose to continue that and strengthen that program.
Thank you. Next is Barbara.
Well, I kind of took a little bit of wind out of my sails. First of all, I would like to compliment Ms. Reilly here on her revolving loan fund proposal. I think that's an excellent idea, and I'm going to steal that. Ms. Ken Anderson here was a community activist in terms of killing the Sunday meters and the late night parking because she believed that's what the people wanted. I'd like to compliment her on that. My idea is that we should do what the people want. And how many people here want Sunday parking fees? Oh, hey, look at that. Okay, no Sunday parking fees. So we'll go with that. Now, with the idea of neighborhoods, keeping the character of the neighborhoods, there's a couple of programs that I think you might find very interesting, that which you might not be aware. On Valencia Street, there's a program called WISE, Women's Initiative for Self-Employment. And what they do is they take someone who doesn't know what they're doing, and they assign that person a mentor who comes up with a mission statement and a business plan, and the mentor works with the person who doesn't know what they're doing until the person figures out what to do. And then they take money for the person who used to not know what they're doing, and they lend it to the person so that they can start a small business. And then that person who used to not know what they're doing, who now does, now has a business which serves employees, which solves the job problem, which brings us back to crime. Poverty promotes crime. So we're going to take a look at the business model of Women's Initiative for Self-Employment, and we're going to apply it to fellas too. No reason to just give the women businesses and not give the fellas, the poor fellas, the jobs also. Okay? Fellas deserve to work just as much as women do. I believe that. It goes along with my strengthening of the Human Rights Commission. No discrimination on the basis of race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender. None of that around here. So that's the situation, preserving the character of the neighborhood. I took a look down at a recently opened, oh man, another stop sign.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Abraham, please.
I can't address both the parking meter issue and small business in 2 minutes, so I'm going to need your help a little bit. When I go like this, you're going to say, fix Muni. Okay, ready? Try it. 1, 2, 3. Fix Muni. Okay, you're going to have to say that a couple of times. Okay, now, parking meters. I spoke to a number of business owners as well. I've been doing this since March. I've been a small business advocate. I've been, and the number 2 complaint after smash and grab crime has been parking meters. And they say that it's just become way too militaristic. It's just too much. And, after all of that, you would think the MTA, who has responsibility for that, and Muni would think that the best thing we could do is... No, that's not what they're doing. They're trying to make it so hard for all of us to park in an area that we have to move every so often. That's the way that they're going to fix the problem. Does that sound like a way to help us and help the merchants in our area? No, that sounds like a way to get another $9 million because we're short on funding. We don't need to do that. What we need to do is... Thank you. Small Business Administration. Okay, look, we've been waiting a long time for the Small Business Administration to do some things that we were hoping it would do. Reduce the amount of time it takes for a use permit. Try and reduce the amount of time it takes for a variance. Right now, 80% of businesses don't even get an answer to a request for a variance after 120 days. We won't even say no after 120 days. That's ridiculous. We need to advertise small business areas. We need to give incentives for people who fill up storefronts. We need to change. The reason why there are so many businesses with under 20 people is because if you get a 20th employee in San Francisco right now, you get penalized up the wazoo. Let's change that number. Let's change it to 30, maybe 40. What do you say? Okay? And then let's...
Fix
Thank you. That's my time. Sorry.
Thank you, Abraham.